One, two, three. Hi guys.
Hey.
Hi,
This is Rename and
Raimundo.
and I'm Sebastian.
welcome back to my channel. Okay, so today we have some guests who is studying in Tokyo University right now. So please introduce yourself.
My name is Raimundo. I'm in fourth year. I'm from Chile, and I study cinema.
Yeah, Sebastian, as I said, from the UK. I am a third year student at the moment of a 4-year course, so I go back and have one more year. And I study English literature and art history in the UK, but it's all slightly different out here.
Yeah, for me too.
Okay, so basically you study something different from your major back in your country. So why did you choose Tokyo University then?
Well, I chose Tokyo University because I've always been interested in Japanese culture. I've grown up watching Japanese films. Also, I've always found anime quite interesting, Japanese literature. So it's been an important cultural reference for me. And I wanted to get to know more the country in the deep way of the experience, and Tokyo was like the most famous of the universities.
Oh, Tokyo University?
Yeah, well, I didn't know it before applying.
You
but
didn't know
when
about Tokyo University?
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't either.
Yeah, it's not like here in Japan there's like Todai. No,
Tokyo
Todai. No,
No.
there's no Todai
No.
in our country.
So
Like
you-
university, like which university? University of Tokyo. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I just saw the universities. I did a little research, and it was like, oh, okay, this is the most famous one, and
Okay.
I'll go to that one.
So,
And for me, it was sort of more of a personal thing than Ray, who maybe had like sort of this outward sort of cultural impact on him. So I very much in the UK, I was in one of these sort of, when you think of like UK boarding schools, like people sleeping at school, like Hogwarts. Yeah, everyone goes Hogwarts. That was kind of the experience that I had. It wasn't a castle, but that was kind of the experience that I had gone through. So it was very much sort of insulated and sort of insular. And I started boarding aged 11 or 12 and sort of came all the way through, and then graduated and went to university, Exeter. I go to Exeter University in England, and the demographic of people that I met there was very similar. And so I ended up we go into student halls, they're kind of like big dorms, and it was the same kind of people. It was people who'd all been sort of white middle class group of people who were all sort of quite similar to me. And so when I got the option of like where to go, it was sort of like they gave me a long list of stuff, and given the grades that I had and what I sort of kind of wanted to do, which was just sort of get out of the bubble, sort of break out of the little bubble that I'd sort of been part of, and just sort of jump into the deep end. I didn't know much about the language here, in particular.
Which is a hard subject, the
which
language.
is very difficult.
We've struggled.
And so I thought that would be a good place to sort of jump in at the deep end and sort of break get out of the little bubble that I was in.
England.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was the main
So it's
reason.
pretty different. The
Uh-huh.
reasons, like you had interest in Japanese culture, and you just wanted to have like a different experience.
Yeah,
So how is it so far? Actually, is it?
it's amazing. Yeah, it's brilliant. So we've both been here since September.
2018, right?
Yeah, September 2018, and now it's whatever it is, nearly June 2019.
We started in the same residence.
Yeah, we did. We moved into
Mitaka-ryo.
Mitaka.
Mitaka-ryo.
That's actually the biggest difference. I mean, Mitaka's great. It's very cheap, but it's a long way away. And when I moved in, like there were these cockroaches all over the ground. I was like,
That's true. They're coming back again because of this
oh no.
summer season.
How much was it? The flat?
Mitaka, 10
It's like 11,000 yen
yen
monthly.
a month,
That's so cheap.
which
for
is
Tokyo.
pretty cheap.
So cheap.
But this guy left us.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I moved out after a few months because
Quite a good decision.
one of my friends moved out. So now I'm living in Harajuku in a shared house, which is like literally 10 times the price, but it's really good, and it's totally changed the way I interact with the city. So now I'm right next to both Shibuya and Shinjuku, and I can sort of just go out when I want. And I think also creatively that's had quite a good impact on me, because I quite like taking pictures and stuff, and I can just sort of like I'm right in the middle of it. Like the thing that you think of classic Japan, you're like Shibuya crossing, and you can sort of go and get these iconic shots really easily. So how else has it impacted me? The language was very difficult to start with. So we both did a term of that up until January. So we got the basics and we can get around. But I think there's just, with the 3 alphabets and everything like that, it takes just so much time.
Yeah.
You gotta sink a lot of time into it.
Yeah.
And that was impacting on, like, my degree isn't in Japanese. And so, like, that was, in the end, it was impacting upon, like, the other courses that I was doing. And so I think that, in the end we both dropped it.
You dropped it.
We both dropped it.
We both dropped it in January.
Do you still study on yourselves?
Not really.
Not really.
The reason why you want to learn the language is to get in touch with the locals,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
But it's still it's so hard to learn that even if we had done another term, I wouldn't think that we would have been able to talk
Yeah, conversational
with the local
level.
people.
Yeah.
And that's one of the problems, I would say, that there's like this huge gap between foreign people and Japanese
yeah.
people. So people are eager sometimes to chat a little bit, but not that much. And no one talks a lot of English.
No.
So that I would say that's like a part that I wanted to get to know more Japanese people, but
Yeah, I
Not
think that's
really.
interesting in terms. You mentioned diversity and stuff like that. The fact that it's not a very diverse city. Like a lot of people are Japanese,
Yeah.
and as soon as you leave the areas like Shibuya, or like the touristy areas, like no one is non-Japanese.
that's true.
And I think sort of on an international level as well, that's quite interesting because Japan, I think, sometimes has a tendency to be quite insular. So we're talking about the language, for example. Like it's only spoken in Japan. It's not like, I don't know, what's good. Well, English is obviously the obvious example where English is sort of a worldwide global language. But even things like Spanish or like other
German.
languages, German, that are spoken much more widely. I think Japan sometimes insulates itself by its language. Which is not necessarily always a good thing, but I think they also got a strong sense of sort of pride and identity as a result of that. So,
I agree.
yeah.
There's also, I think, there's not much interest in the Torai Japanese students to maybe talk to us.
They
I would
don't
say.
talk to you?
There's some of them do, but we have a couple of Torai Japanese friends, but I would say it's quite a minority.
You very much, it's sort of a conscious, you have to actively go out, and if you want to sort of make friends who go to the university, you need to sort of, I don't know if they're the most open-minded group of people that I've ever met, in terms of meeting new people, and it's like, I say practicing your English in kind of a belittling way, but that's not quite what I mean, but sort of going out of their way to seek people there. I feel like sometimes people are very much here to just work a lot of the time.
So how are the classes that you're taking here?
The classes?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are very, if I was going to use a word, it would be inconsistent, actually. Because sometimes you have these amazing courses that are taught by these amazing professors who know so much about what they're doing, and they're so passionate about it, and they give you these really interesting readings, and you have really interesting discussions in the group. And then at the same time, sometimes you're with like lecturers who will grade you totally differently as one thing, and then also just sort of stand at the front and talk to you like a class of, I don't know the typical
One
Todai
way,
teacher, but I imagine it's the dry,
Yes.
old
Japanese way of teaching.
chap
True.
standing there.
Sometimes language
Confucian,
is
that's the word I'm looking for.
also an issue, like the English level of the teachers is not as good, so you kind of feel like you're not getting
That's true.
into so much of like a deep conversation, but only on the surface.
Yeah.
But I would say, it depends a lot on the teacher.
Yeah. So much
We've
so.
had we have had a couple of really good teachers
Yeah.
with same courses.
I think it's unfortunate that it should be a thing, although at the same time, like, who are we to come here only speaking English and be like, teach us well in English?
True.
But one of the most important things is the fluency of the English. Like, if you have a teacher who's struggling through their sentences and even when they're just lecturing to you, like something they've had time to prepare, you know that if you ever have a sit down and have a discussion with them, it's only going to be surface level because they can't really articulate themselves very well. So I think the English language ability, as much as it shouldn't play a precedent, is very important when I consider a course to choose.
Okay. So moving on to something realistic life, like how much does it cost per month to live in
How much
Tokyo?
does it cost?
Ooh.
It's-
It depends.
I get a
on,
lot of questions. Like,
It depends
pricey,
on what's your. Where you
what you're
living?
used to.
For example, if you live in Mitaka, it's only 10,000 yen a month for rent, and then you have to transport here to Torai which every day would be like around 400 yen, but you can get the commuter pass.
Which in itself is like 10,000 yen.
10,000 yen.
Yeah.
So if you pay that, then you are free to go from your place, from Ithaca to here. So it's another 10,000. And depends on if you're cooking yourself or if you're having lunch. I usually tend to have lunch here in the shokuro,
Which is cheap.
which is cheap. I would say it's 500 yen around.
Yeah, for like a decent meal as well.
A decent meal, and you can. Well, it's more expensive, but you can get a discount also by paying another like 15,000 yen. But they will give them to you.
Yeah, it's a deposit, you get that back. Cooking and eating at home can often come to like the same amount, and if not more.
True.
Same amount, if not more. So it's more expensive to like go to a supermarket and shop, but than I'm used to, and so that's something that I've been adjusting to, because it's way cheaper in the UK to cook for yourself, whereas somewhere here you often, because people just go out. Like I see a lot of people just eating by themselves.
Yeah.
Whereas what I'm used to, maybe what the Western world itself is more used to, is going out is like a treat. You go out with your friends, you have a glass of wine, you talk, you have fun. It's more of like an experience, an occasion. Whereas I think that the eating side of things here is much more functional. People just go and like slurp your ramen, standing up, and then get out of it. That's one
like
thing
5 minutes.
I've noticed. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's
Okay, so how much does it cost?
I think for him,
what on a number?
No, for you guys.
I think it would be around 40 or 50,000 yen a month,
Okay, including
Maybe.
the rent.
including the rent.
Including, in your case, living in Mitaka.
Maybe 60,000. It depends, because some months, for example, we go out more. I would say it could be 40,000, 60,000. And if you're traveling, well, if you go travel, it's way more expensive because traveling here is more. But I don't know, what about you?
Yeah, I would say that's probably about right. My rent's obviously totally off the scale.
But if
so
you take out the rent,
I would say that's probably about right. If you have like a normal month, like you take into account maybe you go out once or twice, like go to a club, and then you're eating normally, you're not skimping on food. I would say that sounds about right. Maybe 60,000 yen. I think the area you live has a big impact on that, because living right in the middle of town, obviously everything's a bit more expensive. So you got to pick your location wisely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. So, any other words that you want to tell for people who wants
Any
to come
other
to Japan to
words?
study?
I would do it.
You should do.
Yeah.
To study, you should-
Yeah.
you
yeah,
should
me
do it.
too. It's a
Totally.
great experience.
Yeah.
Oh, is it
We've
one
had fun.
semester or a year is better?
It's a year, I would say.
I would say if you have the time and if your university allows you to, go for a year, because there's some things some sort of the people that you get to know, you just won't have enough time to get to know, and in just 4 or 5 months.
True.
And plus with the year, you have this gap in the middle of 2 or 3 months, which is like, because our years don't sync up with Japanese years in February and March and most of January actually. You have all this free time, and so you can sort of engage with the country. You can go traveling around the country or around Asia if you like, Southeast Asia.
That's
True,
great.
it's
It's
very
really it's a great location
It's
for
close.
traveling.
Yeah, like flights to
Asia,
Korea is
yeah.
super cheap, things like that. And so you can really get to know the country a lot more, which I think is really important. It is sort of going out and engaging with people and places, which almost I would say is worth more than the education that you get. Like, when else are you going to have an opportunity to live in a country that you've never been to for so long? I think.
Yeah, and I think talking to people from different places is always the most
That's true.
interesting thing.
Well, not only is it really interesting talking to the local students when you can, but actually the international students as a community.
Yeah. That's a great part of it.
It's really interesting
Getting to know
seeing,
people from
how things are done in different countries.
everywhere.
That's almost one of the most appealing things I would say is making friends who are from all over the world, and so it's really interesting.
Okay. That was a long 17 minutes.
Really? Oh, it didn't feel
Yeah.
like that.
So that was it. If you have any questions, you can comment down and I can pass it on. So.
You can follow
Like and
follow us on
subscribe.
Instagram.
Oh yeah, you have to, yeah. Please, yeah. You can
Send a
follow
private
their
message.
Instagram,
DM me.
And yeah, bye.
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 Okay.